Throughout the past 10 months, I've been using the DJI Pocket 3 pretty much every time I film outside, which is usually at least several times a week, if not more. And throughout that time, I have inevitably made some mistakes. There are 4 mistakes in particular that I found myself making several times, and so I wanted to share those mistakes with you in this video, as well as some tips on how to avoid making them so that you don't make them yourself. So the very first mistake that I found myself making over and over again was not filming long enough B-roll. If you don't know, B-roll is secondary footage that you use to overlay your A-roll or your main footage, and it can also help to show some of the things that you're talking about. So like right now, if I was going to be talking about my iPhone, I might want to show some B-roll clips or close-ups of the product so that you're not just looking at my face the entire time. Using B-roll really helps to keep your scene moving and just keep it more interesting. I also use B-roll to patch up parts of my A-roll in case I make a mistake and I have to cut it out, or whenever I'm transitioning from one scene to another. Now, whenever I film B-roll, which is quite often, I have often struggled to figure out how long that B-roll clip should be. And as a result, I've often ended up having that clip be a little bit too short. So there's 2 things that I've done to fix this problem. The first is to film a minimum of 10 seconds of B-roll. Generally, this is long enough for the segments that I need. I also film in a higher frame rate, such as 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. I always edit my final video in 24 frames per second, so because I shot that B-roll in a higher frame rate, that gives me the flexibility to slow down that footage in post-production. Now, this doesn't always work for talking head videos. Like if I slow down this video, it's gonna sound pretty weird. So I wouldn't do it for talking head, but for B-roll, it is perfect to extend out your clip just long enough to use it as an overlay. If you want to learn more about frame rates and how to slow down that footage in post-production and how exactly it all works, I have a separate video talking all about it and showing you how to do it. So check it out in the description below. For mistake number 2, I'll go ahead and show you a sample because I have quite a few of them of me making this mistake. When I first started making YouTube videos, my on-camera presence was just horrible. I didn't know what to say and I just felt so awkward, and I felt like that was translating on camera. So I thought that I was filming on my transmitter like I am right now, but it turns out that my transmitter was not connected to the Pocket 3 and I was only filming with the internal microphones on the camera, or so I thought. Now in general, if you use the DJI Mic 2 transmitter and you connect it to the Pocket 3, then it very reliably connects. I have not had issues with the connection that I have not caused myself. So I actually caused this mistake, and again, I've done it several times. But the mistake is that I use the transmitter to connect to the DJI Mic 2 receiver, which is a separate product. But if you want to use the transmitter to connect back to the Pocket 3, you have to switch it back to Bluetooth mode. And I forgot to do that when I was filming this clip. So when I first played back this clip, I was so annoyed because I thought that I had ruined the audio. But then I remembered that I had turned on internal recording on the transmitter. So all I had to do was take the audio file off of the transmitter and sync it with the internal recording on the Pocket 3. And boom, this is what happened. When I first started making YouTube videos, my on-camera presence was just horrible. I didn't know what to say and I just felt so awkward, and I felt like that was translating on camera. So there's a few things I did to make myself feel more comfortable as well as appear more comfortable on camera. So the lesson here, or the way to avoid this mistake, there are actually 2 of them, but the first one is to double check that your transmitter is connected to the Pocket 3 if you intend to film with it. There are a couple of ways to do this. When the transmitter first connects, you have this little notification sign that pops up. And also, when you're looking at the LCD screen, when the transmitter is connected, you have these audio levels that go back and forth. And apparently, when I made these mistakes, I was in such a rush that I forgot to look for those signals. So it's something to look out for. The second thing that you should do if you're filming with this transmitter is to always enable internal recording. You may not always need it. In fact, 90% of the time I don't need it, but the 10% of the time that I do need the internal recording, it has saved the videos that I've filmed. And so I think that's worth having, just for the peace of mind. Now, depending on the types of videos that you shoot, you may want to have 2 types of audio tracks. The main audio track of your speaker, as well as some ambient sound in case you want to overlay it for your B-roll. So there is a setting within the Pocket 3 where you can do this. You can have the internal mics record as well as the transmitters record. So again, depending on the type of footage that you're shooting, you may want to enable that setting as well. Or if you need background or ambient sounds and you forgot to record it on site, you can also use the sponsor of today's video, Artlist. They not only have tons of royalty-free music and sound effects, but they have a brand new feature called AI VoiceOver. This allows you to input text and have it read back to you in a voice of your choice. I'll record a little part of this segment using that voiceover feature to demonstrate how it sounds.
Contrary to what you might think, these AI voices actually sound pretty real, for the most part. It does depend on the type of text that you input.
The longer the sentence, the more natural the voice sounds. And if you messed up audio recording in your video like I did, this offers you a chance to make up the audio.
Now, this probably won't work all the time. Like in this video, where I've been speaking the whole time. Are you weirded out that you're hearing this from a voice that isn't mine? But you can still get creative with the way that you use this feature.
I don't know about you, but I am extremely impressed with how that voice sounds. It doesn't sound robotic at all. It sounds like an actual person read it. If you want to try out this feature for yourself, it's available with all Artlist Max plans. And using this feature is included in your Artlist license. So check out the link in the description below to try it out for yourself. Next is mistake number 3, which has to do with color profiles. So generally speaking, I like the normal color profile within the Pocket 3. It especially works out here in Seattle, where we tend to have gray, overcast days like this, where the lighting is nice and even. But it is now summertime, and even though today is a somewhat overcast day, we tend to have really bright sunny days where there's not a cloud in the sky. It doesn't always rain in Seattle, by the way. So on those days, I actually get tripped up because I don't really know how to deal with that bright, contrasty light. But I have found that if I film with a normal profile on the Pocket 3, that I tend to get a lot of chromatic aberration, or that pink and green color fringing on the edges of my shot if the lighting is too contrasted. I also just really don't like that high contrast look in my videos. So besides trying to find places with more even lighting or wait for overcast days like this to film my videos, I tend to shoot in D-Log-M. If you're not familiar with it, log footage is a flat color profile. It strips out a lot of the saturation and the sharpness and the contrast in your shot. So you do have to edit it in post-production to make it look good. But I just find that that really helps control the chromatic aberration. It gives me more control over my shadows and my highlights. And because there's less sharpness, I also think that it makes my face look better, which I'm usually in my shots when I'm filming with the Pocket 3. So it doesn't hurt to have slightly lower sharpness on my images. The final mistake that I've made repeatedly with the Pocket 3 is forgetting to bring that little 1/4-20 piece that you need to attach the camera to a tripod. I find it really annoying that the Pocket 3 does not have that 1/4-20 hole just built into the bottom of the camera. Instead, you just have that USB-C port, which is important, but I always need that 1/4-20 hole. I have forgotten to pack this piece more times than I can remember. So I've had to come up with a system to have it with me more often. So my solution has been attaching that little piece to my main mini tripod that I use to film most of my videos. So the tripod just has that piece built in of sorts, it just never leaves it. And it's actually turned out to be a good thing because now it serves as a quick release. So I can just pop my camera onto that tripod, use it, pop it off when I'm done. So in a way, it's actually turned out to be a good thing. I do wish that you could buy more of these little 1/4-20 nubs because I don't think you can. You can buy the battery handle, which can juice up your camera, and that also has the 1/4-20 hole in the bottom, but it is a lot bigger than that little 1/4-20 nub that you initially get with the camera. But if you are able to find multiple pieces like this, then you can put them on all of your most used mounts. So you can have a quick release to quickly transfer your camera from one mount to another. So those are my 4 most commonly made mistakes when filming with the Pocket 3, as well as some of the solutions that I've come up with to avoid making them. So hopefully this video was helpful for you if you've struggled with similar problems. But you guys let me know in the comments down below what kind of mistakes that you've been making with the Pocket 3 and any solutions that you've come up with, because I love to, find out more tips and tricks on how to best use this camera. And I'd love to share them with you. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.